this hot?
Yeah.
Near the end of his reign, Vladimir Lenin was shot 3 times. 2 of these shots landed. One hit Lenin in the neck, the other in the head. He survived the ordeal and had a surgery to remove one of the bullets from his neck. The other could not be removed. After this, Lenin had a dangerous stroke and was left recovering. He had to learn how to speak Russian again and how to write with his left hand, since his right would not work.
Disclaimer, this is not actually how learning Russian works.
He returned to office, but the stress of the country's problems took its toll on Lenin's mind. He had a second stroke and had to go into semi-retirement in the country. The head General Secretary, Stalin, visited frequently and was Lenin's connection to the outside world. During this time, Lenin wrote his final testament. This stated that Stalin should never be put in power and should be removed from the position of secretary. Stalin kept this testament a secret after he had read it. After this, Lenin suffered from a third stroke. This left him bedridden for 2 months. During this time, he relearned Russian and asked Stalin to poison him and end his life. He never did, and Stalin let him die slowly.
The winner is Lenin John. And his name is
Peregrina. After his death, most people thought that Trotsky would replace him, but he was instead later replaced by Stalin. During his autopsy, they would remove his brain and cut it into over 1,000 wafer-thin slices. These were individually studied to find out how the brain of a genius worked. Stalin did several things to lower Trotsky's popularity so that he would not be put in power. Not only was Trotsky not a popular politician to begin with, but Stalin told him that Lenin's funeral happened a day later than it actually did. Trotsky never arrived to the funeral because of this, and this lowered his popularity even more. During a meeting of the heads of state, Lenin's testament was read out. This testament denounced Stalin and what he stood for. Trotsky didn't step up to oppose Stalin's takeover of the government because he didn't want to go against what the people thought was the truth. Stalin was put in power for several months. After these few months, 2 groups sprung up: the left opposition and the forces allied with Stalin. Trotsky was part of the left opposition, and the heads of state allied with Stalin quarreled with him constantly. Stalin put himself as a mediator and placed himself in a neutral position between the 2 opposing groups. This made the people think of him as a peaceful leader. The battle between Trotsky and the other heads of state led Stalin to exile him from the Soviet Union. Afterwards, the heads of state led a new opposition versus Stalin as a power grab. A few months later, a popular politician was assassinated. Stalin blamed this new opposition morally and politically for his death. To avoid lengthy prison sentences, most members confessed to this. The 2 political leaders of the new opposition were executed by Stalin.
Hola, no soy la peregrina. No.
Yo soy Genoveva.
Y ahora te vamos a hablar del gobierno de la Unión Soviética cuando se murió Vladimir Lenin. No. Te vamos a hablar de esto porque era la peregrina que se llevó a Lenin. Cuando se murió Vladimir Lenin, había un problema severo de separación en la Unión Soviética. No. Stalin se puso en una posición de poder, aunque Lenin no lo quería en poder. Y Trotsky creó un grupo para oponerlo. Durante este tiempo, Stalin se convirtió en un famoso político y se pudo quedar en posición de poder durante la oposición de Trotsky.